Well, Calum, welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. It's fair to say that we're going to be looking for a reaction this weekend from the Dons.
Yes, God knows we need it. I've calmed down a little bit now from the review show. I'm ready to preview this properly, and hopefully we won't have to have an angry little rant after this one.
Yeah, fingers crossed, just the 1 point needed to secure our European football next season. And given obviously the cup catastrophe, that is the only way we can secure European football this season. Travelling to Livingston, probably a sticky fixture in normal circumstances, but maybe a bit of an end to season feel to it, do you feel?
Yeah, I feel like right now they've given up all hope of probably catching us, considering we just need 1 point, and we've now got basically nothing to play for. We're not going to catch him, so let's be honest, out of the cup. It's just going to be a drab affair, I feel like, as most of our games have been this season.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one because, Livingston haven't won in the league since defeating us in that midweek game at Pittodrie. So I think that's 10 games without a win for them. But given the way that the cup competition has transpired over the last couple of weeks, obviously with us knocking them out, with Hibs still being in the cup and potentially if them winning the cup, it would mean fifth place would be enough to secure European football, which Livingston currently occupy. So potentially a little bit of motivation for their players now, given the way the cup competition has gone about.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose they could be keeping an eye on St Johnstone behind them. I suppose St Johnstone have got a lot to play for the remainder of the season, so that could be an interesting thing. I didn't even consider that, so there we go. That's me all over, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just an interesting side take because I know that the guys at Talk Livi have probably thought that their season's petering out, nothing really to play for, but that European football is very lucrative. We've enjoyed that over the past seasons. It's something as fans we look forward to. So, I mean, obviously, qualification for Europe is a little bit out of their hands. As you touched on before we recorded, maybe do you think they're too far behind us in terms of getting fourth place?
Yeah, I feel like even we couldn't throw this away, surely, at this stage. If we don't get a point between now and this end of the season, just bend the whole club. There's no point carrying on. Surely we're not going to throw this away. Have I jinxed it? Yeah, probably. We'll play this when it does happen.
Yeah, I know. Please do not make this precede unfortunate events. But, Livingston caused us problems a couple of weeks ago. Emmanuel-Thomas and Alan Forrest combined. I was listening to the guys at Talk Livi. I was listening to their preview. It was really good to hear. They actually decided to record it before Sunday's catastrophe, so I admired how worried they were listening to it after that game.
Oh yeah, I've got to be fair. After seeing how we played on Sunday, I feel like they'll be a little bit more confident. It was shambolic, but I'm just trying not to think about that. We're looking ahead to the future, nice and positive mental attitude, as you like to say.
Yeah, but they in that cup game, we didn't really cause them too many problems, and obviously that was on our home patch. Given Livingston tend to have the advantage on the plastic pitch now, I know they'll be delighted for me to mention the fact that the game's unlikely to be called off, as surely the plastic pitch can hold up this weekend after the previous farces that we had on our last couple of trips to Almondvale.
Oh God, I hope so. But given some of the weather, some of the rain lately, who knows? Imagine, if it cancelled like that, it would just be comedy club. Like, it'd be really, really funny. I wouldn't even be mad. I'd just enjoy it for the comical value.
To be fair, at least we've got a free weekend the weekend after to play if there was any postponements.
Very true. Planning ahead. Well done, Stephen Glass.
But looking to the game itself, like I said, we didn't probably cause Livingston as much problems as we would have liked in the last meeting, but they certainly caused us plenty problems in Emmanuel-Thomas, a handful in himself up top, but Alan Forrest as well caused Tommy Hoban no end of problems, and we saw what sort of game he had on the Sunday. I think it'll be a nice way of putting it. Do you think they can target Tommy again, or Tommy might even find himself out of the team? I suppose
Vash Taylor's back fit. I don't think just Tommy Hoban though could be targeted. I think Messrs Constantine could be there as well. For either getting dragged all about by Emmanuel-Thomas or the sort of pace of Alan Forrest getting behind. We know that's a concern. Any sort of pacey striker against those two cause massive worries for all of us.
Yeah, and I think as well with the way Dundee United exploited our fullbacks is maybe something that we might see being worked on again this weekend, and interesting to see how badly exposed we were, how we react to that this weekend.
Well, they bloody would need to, don't they? They really, really do. It couldn't be much worse, and I say that really, really cautiously, because it is Aberdeen Football Club we're talking about here. I suppose it probably could always be worse. But you'd like to think they'll come out with fire in their belly, a point to prove, and also just to seal that fourth place so you don't even have to worry about it. Because the more I think about it, the more I'm just getting concerned, even though I think, surely not, that's never going to happen. You never know.
Yeah, and it's certainly, if we could win on Saturday, and if Hibs, were to lose to St Johnstone, it would certainly create the midweek game against Hibs interesting. We're going to do that watch along with Michael Monin. Monin. I know he got annoyed that I didn't pronounce his name correctly last time. So,
you've done it again.
You can edit that out.
I'm not editing that out. I'm clipping it up and sending it to you.
Yeah. But just keep a little bit of interest for that game. It's something that you guys as fans of the show wanted us to do. We promised we would do it against Hibs. So hopefully that game does have a bit of interest. But speaking of the YouTube channel, if you're watching, make sure you subscribe and leave some feedback. And some of you have done so, and I'm going to bring that up now. 123 Wee Dave commented on our last video, Calum, saying that when you come out and promise attacking football, you're giving away your game plan, which obviously Dundee United did impress our fullbacks. Do you see that? Obviously, we saw that on Sunday. Do you see us that kind of being a weakness going forward, because that is something that we've been so open in saying that that's the style we're going to be going for?
I suppose, yeah, when you've promised that, and then then they can look for ways to exploit that because they know how you're going to come out and play. But also then it also makes it hard for your own backs when you come out and play like that against Dundee United and play so badly and not carry out this attacking football very well. Then you've already said you're going to do it, and then that's the type of showing you serve up. So it just kind of sort of double-edged sword in a negative way. Not great.
Yeah, and I think as well, when we're going to come on to it, some of the comments Glass made in his weekly update that seems to be a new thing from the club, kind of seeing what he said. But the games against Livingston tend to be tight games, so I don't know. Livingston aren't known for their high press. They're tend to be defensively sound and build from the back instead of putting teams themselves on the back foot. But their home record was something that they prided themselves on, but recently kind of bit in different form. Only won 4 of their last 10 home games, drawing 3 and also losing 3. But I kind of get the feeling that it's going to be another tight affair on Saturday.
That's sort of the form is something we can take sort of encouragement from. But given the way they've played against us in the last 2 games as well, we know what they're very much capable of, and we have to be very, very wary of them. As I said, defensively pretty sound, and they can build from the back and play some good stuff going forward too, as well as we saw in the last game. So we do need to be very, very wary of them, especially on their patch. Yeah,
and going back to the comment about our kind of attacking football, and if the style that we're playing doesn't work, teams kind of manage to exploit that. Do you think we've probably learnt, or well, certainly hope we've learnt from last weekend in how to adapt that mid-game and shore up shop? Make ourselves a bit more defensively sound so we're not vulnerable every time a team comes forward against us?
I do hope we've learned from Sunday. If they've not learned from Sunday, then again, shut the whole club down. There needs to be a plan B in place. I think that was one thing that we were probably critical of on Sunday, the fact that he didn't make any changes really, or not early enough anyway, when we're 2-0 down at half time. So hopefully they've learned from that and got a plan B in place. They'll have a bit more time, a full week, obviously, before the next game, because I suppose they didn't have that much time in the training park beforehand. So hopefully they'll have learned. You'd like to think so, but again, I keep saying it. It's Aberdeen we're talking about. You just never know how bad it's going to be.
Yeah, and especially I think this season, which has just been full of unknowns and probably unexpected lows. We really don't know what's to come, but there's a few other comments on the YouTube channel. Like we said, if you're watching there, make sure you're liking and subscribing and leaving our feedback, because we do like to see it. It does help provide content and talking points for us in these preview shows. And a couple of the other comments were based on, do you think that the players are buying into the style that Stephen Glass is putting on? Or as I heard kind of on Sports Sound, and I think Open Goal touched on it as well, it's possibly difficult for the players to adapt to this change. Constantine in particular has been playing in a back three to then go into maybe a bit of a back four. You saw that with the opening goal on Sunday.
I wouldn't say maybe they're not buying into it. I think, you say it's a sort of a quick turnaround to try and completely change up your style. And I'd say maybe not buying. I'd say they would be buying into it, but whether they're actually capable of playing that way is a different story altogether. Which is why I think reserving as much judgment as I possibly can before until after summer, when it's his own players and he's specifically signed them to play this way, and they've had a pre-season and things like that. Yeah,
and I think it's it's a point that you've made quite a lot on the show as well about he's not had a lot of time to work with the players, only a couple of days in between. We had the 3 games in as many days, it was 7 or 8 days. So, he's not had his chance to put that proper stamp on the training pitch. And, those of you that have listened to his midweek update has said, it's kind of been a luxury having a full week to not only assess the players in terms of their capability, but also to work with them and get the ideas further across. So I'm kind of feel the same way as you. I'm not really buying that the players aren't buying into it, but a sense of it probably is, trying to teach an old dog new tricks is difficult at this late stage in the season. But yeah, I'll reserve judgment until August, September time, until we've seen kind of what he's brought in and if it does need new players to play that particular style.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But I think it will be interesting seeing if there's any improvement in playing in that style, but having had a week on the training pitch from the last game and having learned from their mistakes, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think, if we look towards the game itself from an Aberdeen point of view, we touched on maybe a change in defence. You mentioned Ash Taylor coming back into the fold. Stephen Glass mentioned him, that being the first time they were able to see him in training this week. Also mentioning Ryan Hedges, a forgotten man so far this season. Well, for the latter part of the season, obviously with his unfortunate injury that he picked up against this weekend's opponents. And Ross McCrory also hopeful that he can feature in the remaining games. Didn't say whether or not he would feature this weekend. So that's a little bit hopeful that we might see Ryan Hedges before the end of the season.
It's very nice hearing some positive news about injuries for once. The fact he'll be back before the end of the season, that would be nice, if he is, that is. An entertainer as well, to say the least. So that would be nice. It would just be good to enjoy watching some football.
Yeah, and do you think with Ash Taylor, getting back into training this week and the poor performances that we saw from both centre halves, no reason why he can't start on Saturday?
Yeah, possibly. I think maybe they might use pitch as somewhat of a concern.
I was going to say.
Yeah, as we often do see. But I kind of do also just hope that he can play because we have been terrible. And although Ash Taylor might not be the answer going forward, we have been worse without him, let's be honest.
Yeah, and as I know that's a kind of an age-old argument. Does it really say how good Taylor is or how bad our defence is? So it depends what side of the fence or the argument you want to sit on there. Going into our strike force, I know it's a point that you like to make, how our starting strikers don't seem to score. It seems to be our substitutes that come on it and make the difference or have an impact, let's say. But on Sunday, we saw Michael Ruth come on over Fraser Hornby. Do you think that spells the end of any chance with us seeing Fraser Hornby for the rest of the season?
Possibly, but again, it wouldn't surprise me because it seems to be out of the three sort of senior strikers, if you like, no one's got any clue who's going to start. It could just be any of them thrown in.
Yeah.
I would like to see Michael Ruth given a chance. I suppose maybe not until fourth is sealed or perhaps third's completely out the window, maybe. He's still a young lad, I suppose. So hopefully he will be given that chance. I've got faith in Stephen Glass that he probably would give him that chance. I don't think it'll be this weekend, though.
Yeah. And, Richard Gordon, for those that listened to Sports Sound after the game on Sunday, will have probably picked up on the comments that he made regarding the wages that both Flo Canberry and Fraser Hornby are on as eye-watering. Quite concerning given the level of performance that we've seen from Flo Canberry, but also the lack of game time we've seen from Fraser Hornby. I know he obviously picked up an injury. But if we're paying eye-watering sums of wages to loan players and not getting the reward back, hopefully we see a better investment in the summer.
I think I was excited when they came in, obviously, in January, but they're not the type of players you should be paying eye-watering fees for. They're not ones that sort of get, obviously we're not in the ground, but bums off the seats kind of thing. So yeah, I'd like to think they would maybe spend better in summer. I really, really hope so. But it's quite funny that they were pleading hard done by no money and they're paying eye-watering fees.
Yeah, I think though, I think it was Paul Selby on Twitter said that it's kind of difficult when you make loan signings on the last day of the season, or any signings on the last day of the transfer window, I should say, because the parent club are going to hold you over a barrel and force you into, if you want him, this is what you'll pay. So I suppose we were forced into that after selling Cosgrove and trying to replace them. Like you, I was excited by some of the signings, a bit cautious on Canberra. I was more excited about Fraser Hornby because I thought he certainly had potential, but unfortunately neither have really shown it. The only one we've really seen kind of any sort of potential from in glimpses has been Calum Hendry. So I don't know if we'll maybe see a deal worked out for him next season. Obviously, we know we're limited in our strike force going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point you make about deadline day, and then also when they know you've taken in so much money for Sam Cosgrove as well. So very much aware of that, I'm sure. It's sort of interesting that out of the three, it's Calum Hendry that's sort of shown the most. Even then, it's not been all that much, but more than the other two. Very interesting seeing I can't imagine he'll be on eye-watering wages, but I bet he'll be gutted that he's missed out on a St Johnstone potential cup double.
Yeah, I know. But before we get onto the midfield, actually, just speaking about players' wages and maybe wasting money, I seen a conversation on Twitter this week between Carol Innes, Nicola Forbes and Ricky Mackey. They were speaking about Michael Devlin, long lost Michael Devlin. Do you remember him?
I kind of forgot he's there, to be honest. I don't know. Do we even know what he's out injured with, or has anyone got any clue? I've not heard a thing about it.
But the other name that Ricky then mentioned was Greg Lee.
That's another one. Don't know what the hell he's out with either. I think he's been the weirdest of the signings throughout the whole season.
I don't even think he was the weirdest signing. It was the weirdest contract extension when he was already injured. So, you're maybe paying eye-watering wages to loan players. At least Canberra and Hornby have been on the pitch, but we're basically funding folks' treatments just now. And I know we did something similar with Tommy Hoban, but at least we've got him back on the pitch and seen minutes out of him. We're not seeing that from Devlin. We're not seeing that from Greg Lee. Could we have not come to some sort of amicable agreement? And, like you said, the club are pleading poverty at times about money. We don't want to be seen to be wasting it on players that aren't even getting a chance.
And as players, you won't see an Aberdeen shirt again, let's be honest. Well, we're not going to see Michael Devlin or Greg Lee pulling an Aberdeen top again. It's just very, very odd. And again, we've heard so little about them. I think we've seen a couple of photos of Greg Lee recently, maybe. But I don't know what they've been out with, what they've been injured with, what the problem's been. But Michael Devlin's been out forever. Yeah. And, you just hope that, we're going to have a better scouting network and we're not going to be signing players with kind of injuries that are in their portfolio. And
comments that Glass made yesterday do kind of fill you with a bit of encouragement. But if we still stay on the match day squad, midfield's been a big talking point on social media, it's fair to say, through our last games, whether or not we're losing, drawing. Would you continue to play Dean Campbell on Saturday, or would you make a change and give Dylan McGeoch some minutes ahead of, because again, another player out of contract, see what he can do in this team?
People say Dean Campbell's not been effective enough. We've not seen enough from Dylan McGeoch either. So, and I would rather give those minutes to Dean Campbell, Dylan Campbell, apparently, just combine them both, who's just turned 20, let's not forget. He's still got plenty of time to develop, and I'm sure he will get there eventually. I'd rather give those minutes to him than to Dylan McGeoch. And let's be honest, we've got going into next season, Ferguson, McCrory, Brown, and then there's already Dean Campbell there as well. Is there room? Yeah, Funso Ojo coming back. Is there even room for either Funso Ojo or Dylan McGeoch at this stage? Especially if we're looking at bringing in Jamie McGrath and perhaps even more.
Yeah, I know it's funny because you were obviously the one that mentioned potentially playing him against Celtic.
Yeah, I'm over that now. I'm all aboard the Dean Campbell train. I'm a fickle man. I'm all aboard the Dean Campbell train. Leave me alone.
Dylan McGeoch's an experienced player who has his own individual qualities. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that just on the back of some criticism that Dean Campbell deserves to be put on the bench, but it was Scott Fife that tweeted me this, saying that over kind of a lot of the critics was Dean Campbell's passing. He passes a lot backwards and sideways, but it must be difficult for a player playing in a team with no confidence. Mm-hmm. And he said that the onus should be on the experienced players, not Dean Campbell, to make the difference. And I know that's something that you've been kind of a champion on.
100%, totally agree with that. More experienced players on much higher wages, and they seem to avoid some criticism. It's all pinned on Dean Campbell, which seems weird. I also would like to say, though, we'll go back to Dylan McGeoch. This is nothing against Dylan McGeoch personally. I just think it's unlikely he'll be the next season. So I suppose it goes back to what Colin was saying when he joined us on the show about Aberdeen kind of becoming a bit of a retirement home with some of the ages of the players. So I guess you could look at it that way, looking to the future and investing time into the younger players. But just on another point that Scott Fife made was, he said that Dean Campbell would probably thrive in a better team or a more successful team, and he might even chip in with a few goals if we were more forward minded. Yeah, if there was players around him with confidence and forward thinking and on the top of the game, on form, let's be honest, then he probably would thrive, let's be honest. I've said let's be honest a lot. Don't know why I keep saying it. Let's be honest, let's be honest, let's be honest. No, I do agree with that, though. And yet, this is a very bad Aberdeen team. It's been one of the least entertaining for a very long time, for as long as I can remember, really. And yet you're expecting little Dean Campbell to come over and save the world. It's never going to happen, is it?
It's funny, it makes a difference from me saying 100% a lot of the time as well.
100%.
But it's interesting because for a local lad, he seems to get a lot of flack, or him in particular seems to be the one that's under the spotlight more often than not over the experienced players who, like, Canberra, for example, who for me was a passenger for 90 minutes on Sunday, but we're focusing on other players. I've seen a lot of comparisons as well to social media about Dean Campbell kind of being compared to a Ryan Jack. It's just, some people saying he's Ryan Jack 2.0. I actually think he's, if you look at Ryan Jack for Scotland, he's quite a key player, and he's, probably a lot of folk are going to disagree with this comment, but he has gone on to improve at Rangers.
Annoyingly so.
Yeah, sadly so. But, you've got to take the so-called red tinted glasses off and look at the bigger picture. Yeah. Thanks for doing that for effect.
No worries.
But, we look at the midfielders we've had previously, Ryan Jack, Kenny McLean. Dean Campbell's not them just now. He's come out and said, with an experienced player like Scott Brown, he hopes he can develop his game. So he knows fine well he's not the finished article in midfield. He knows he's still got to learn. He knows he can still develop. But yet, as fans, we're so quick to jump down his throat and quick to blame him.
I mean, who is the finished article at 20 years old? Unless they're Kylian Mbappe, and even then, he's going to get better, isn't he? So it's a weird sort of pressure everyone sort of puts on him, especially when you look at, okay, obviously Ferguson's come up with some like great goals and big moments and things like that in huge games.
He plays a different role to Dean Campbell, though.
I know, but I'm saying even then, for months, him and McCrory, who both of them we've paid money for, anonymous.
Yeah.
Yet they seem to be didn't get criticism. I don't know what avert means. Is that right? Adverse. That's the one. Thank God you're here.
I know. But one thing, a few comments about Dean Campbell was whether or not he would benefit from a loan spell. You know, something we talked about at the start of the season, in the early days of the show, is he probably would have benefited at the start of the season from a loan spell. And, you know, probably he wasn't maybe expecting to be starting as many games now, you know, at the start of the season. But do you think, given his kind of involvement in the squad so heavily, that probably a loan deal won't be on the cards in the summer?
I'm not sure. I suppose it depends how much Scott Brown's going to come in and play and where they're going to use Ross McCrory too, as well as if Del Magioka, Funso Ojo stick around. Who knows? Because I think Funso Ojo's in contract for another year after this.
Yeah. Or, as you touched on, Jamie McGrath coming in, that's another centre midfielder.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that'll be interesting. I'll trust Stephen Glass's judgment on that, to be honest, because he experienced in developing players. That's sort of his forte, as we've heard lots about from his time at Atlanta United too. I think it would be something he could maybe benefit from, perhaps away from the pressure of that he gets at Aberdeen, where he can go and enjoy his football, play a year of senior football, starting every week, and hopefully get some good form. I think that's something he could benefit from. Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah,
but then also, then he doesn't learn from Scott Brown whilst he's here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's to use your phrase from earlier in the show, a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Again, speaking in defence, do you think Jack McKenzie will retake the left-back slot over Johnny Hayes and see Johnny Hayes either push forward or maybe drop down to the bench this weekend? I
think if Jack McKenzie does come in, it'll probably see Johnny Hayes push forward to being ahead of him. I'd quite like to see Jack McKenzie come in. He's looked pretty decent defensively, other than obviously the goal against Dundee United, and he's looked pretty confident going forward too, to be fair to him. I'd like to see him. He's a good young prospect as well. Again, only 20 years old, so I'm not going to put too much pressure on him. But I would like to see him come in. I don't think Hayes will drop to the bench. If it is, he'll be pushed forward.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. We've got options, and I suppose when, you know, people are maybe playing for their future, not only at the club or elsewhere from the club, it'll be interesting to see kind of what level of performance we get. It can't be as bad as Sunday past, surely.
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying it can't be as bad, but I think we both secretly know it could easily be as bad. It could always be worse. Yeah.
You've touched on kind of the signing rumours that have been circulating kind of yesterday and today. Jamie McGrath's name being linked from St Mirren, but also the continuation on pre-contract talks for Declan Gallagher from Motherwell. Would you be adverse to any of those signings?
No. Goals from midfield, something, although our top goal scorer is a midfielder, we could always do with more. Let's be honest, more goals for this team from anywhere would be great. So I think Jamie would be decent. He's still only 24 years old, done well in the St Mirren side. And in terms of Declan Gallagher, I mean, our defence have been shambolic lately. I think, okay, people have been mentioning his age, but still got a decent few years in him. Scotland international. He has an interesting past, shall we say, but we could do with a hard nut in the back, so it'd be interesting, I think, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think my concern on Declan Gallagher would be whether or not he holds off and maybe sees if he gets any game time in the Euros and tries and gets a move elsewhere. But again, if Hoban's not signing on next season, I wouldn't be against replacing him with Declan Gallagher. You know what you get from him. I know I kind of do agree with what some people said about his age, but you can't beat that little bit of experience in the centre of your defence, and God knows we need that if we're going to be going with the young guys in the wing-back positions next season.
And I assume he's probably not going to be the only centre-half that comes in either. You wouldn't think, especially if one of Taylor or Hoban leaves. I suppose he maybe would learn from Motherwell teammate Stephen O'Donnell, who sort of held out hoping for a better move than Kilmarnock, and then made an extremely sideways step to Motherwell. And also at Declan Gallagher's age, he's probably not going to get a great huge move. A move to somewhere like Aberdeen would be on a bigger wage at Motherwell. No respect to Motherwell, bigger club, prospect of European football at group stage level, perhaps. Maybe a big draw, maybe.
It may be, yeah. And I suppose, for those of you that have listened to the update from Stephen Glass, he said that we're not looking to sign any squad fillers. I don't know whether that's a sly dig at his predecessor or just a sign of his intent, because he said we're looking for quality. And those two players that we've been linked with, we've heard the Lee Griffiths potentially could start a bidding war in Scottish football if he doesn't sign on at Celtic. That would be quality there as well. So it's good it's obviously it's talk right now, but it's good to hear those kind of words coming from the club that we're looking to add to the squad, not just beef it out.
Yeah, 100%. You should probably always be looking to sign someone who could start, or at least push for a starting place to improve the squad, push everyone else on as well. Because even if you bring them in and they push you on who you've got there currently, even better. Then you've got someone quality from the bench, and they're pushing the person in that current position on to do better, perform at a higher level. So it is very, very encouraging. I will mention something that's not in the notes that you said you were going to mention. Messrs. Ronald Hernandez. Do you remember that? You said you're going to speak about him. Very, very interesting. I don't think he's been involved in any, if many. I
don't think he's been involved in any of the league competitive squads. He's not even made the bench. I don't know if he was involved in the CONCACAF qualifiers that they were playing in, but certainly in the league, he's not been involved in any of the matchday squads in terms of starting 11 or the bench. So is he not up to MLS standard, or has he picked up an injury? Not too sure, but doesn't look good from... I know folk were maybe thinking, will we get him back? We know from speaking to Cammy Smith that the MLS season ends in October, so there is still 6 months for him to kind of get into that team and get some game time, but got to get in there soon.
Yeah, 100%. And it'll be interesting to see Ronnie gets in. I just want him to play somewhere. Honestly, at this stage, I want to play anywhere. I don't really care. But I did know Stephen Glass said it. Said in the BBC Sports sort of headline rumours gossip page today. Stephen Glass challenging Bruce Anderson and Ronald Hernandez whilst they're out on loan to earn themselves a place at Aberdeen in the future. So we'll see how that goes.
I suppose Bruce Anderson, he did start off brightly at Hamilton, but has faded away the last few weeks, and I suppose given their current position, it'll be interesting to see if he can play a pivotal role. But Stephen Glass was hoping to have some news soon. I know Steve Gunn's working in a way in the background from what he was saying to try and finalise some deals, so it would be exciting, I think, for fans if we could see some of the quality that's coming in before
season ticket renewals, etc.
Yeah, before some of them come out, just to know what you're buying into as well. I know some people will just blindly buy into it, but some of you might be holding off to see what the quality that Stephen Glass is referring to. So hopefully we see some news on that front in the coming weeks. But hopefully when we record on Monday, Calum, we're speaking on us winning the game, but also securing that return to European football.
And hopefully not only just winning the game, enjoying the game. That would be nice as well.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I suppose we should just get in a little complaint about the pay-per-view price for the Talk Livi boys if they're still tuned in at this point, because they said we're the whingiest fans in Scottish football, the only ones that have whinged the most about paying the 20 quid for the pay-per-view, which is available from Livingston themselves. or alternative methods if you know how.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Glenn. But to be fair, we do very much play up to this stereotype of not only wingiest but stingiest, the good old Aberdeen stereotype that we just don't like putting hands in our pockets.
No. And we'll certainly have something to whinge about if the result doesn't go our way on Saturday.
Oh, especially if we play whatever 20 quid for it. Blimey neck, yeah, that'll be interesting. So be sure to tune in for that. And also don't forget to subscribe, leave a like on the video, put the notification bell on as well so you know exactly when we upload. I know you love it, obviously, at home. Follow us at RTG_podcast on Twitter or wherever you're listening in. And thank you very, very much for tuning in. Thanks for all the recent support. We do very, very much appreciate it. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future in the comments down below. Don't forget to do that.